Ever order the wrong thing off a menu in a foreign country?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That sinking feeling when you realize, what you said isn't what they heard.
Yeah, it happens. Even when you think you're being so careful.
It's a good reminder that communication, especially across cultures, is way more complicated than we often realize. And today, we are diving deep into the world of cross-cultural communication.
Specifically, we are looking at when things get lost in translation.
Exactly. And trust me, it gets pretty wild.
Oh, yeah. We're talking about marketing campaigns gone wrong, brands becoming the laughingstock of the internet.
All because of a few simple words gone astray. But, before we jump in, we've got to give a shout out to the inspiration behind this deep dive, Salvador Orderica.
Global expert in cross-cultural
A
communication.
guy knows his stuff. And lucky for us, he's got a YouTube channel where he breaks down these concepts in a way that is both hilarious and super insightful.
Definitely check it out. We'll link it in the show notes, of course.
Okay, so let's get into it. You ready for some seriously cringeworthy translation fails?
Oh, I'm ready. Hit me with it.
All right, let's start with a classic. Pepsi, the king of cola, had this slogan a while back, "Come alive with Pepsi." Sounds pretty harmless, right?
Sure, catchy, upbeat.
Yeah, until it got translated for some Asian nuggets.
Uh-oh, I've heard about this one.
Instead of the intended message, the translation came out as, "Pepsi brings your ancestors back from the grave."
Oh, wow. That took a dark turn.
Yeah. Not exactly the best way to sell a refreshing beverage. Imagine seeing that on a billboard.
You know, it really makes you realize just how much cultural context matters. What might be a lighthearted phrase in one culture can be completely taboo in another.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Different cultures have different relationships with death, different ways of talking about it.
Exactly. And a direct translation just doesn't cut it when you're dealing with these kinds of sensitive topics.
So what's the takeaway for businesses here?
It's simple, really. Don't assume anything.
Right, like don't assume that a phrase will have the same meaning or impact across different cultures.
Yep. You've got to invest in really understanding your target audience, their cultural nuances, their sensitivities.
Okay, so let's move on to another juicy example. And this one involves everyone's favorite fried chicken, KFC.
Ah, yes. KFC. Another cautionary tale.
Their iconic slogan, "Finger licking good," has been around forever, right?
Super recognizable.
But when they took this slogan to China, it didn't quite translate as planned. Instead of enticing customers, the translation ended up encouraging them to eat your fingers off.
Oh no, I can just imagine the confused faces of customers. Like, is this
Yeah.
some kind of bizarre new chicken eating challenge?
Talk about a marketing mishap. But seriously, this example really drives home the point that a direct translation just doesn't work in many cases.
It's not just about replacing words. It's about conveying the same feeling, the same idea in a way that resonates with the target audience.
It's almost like you need to be a cultural chameleon, adapting your message to fit the specific context.
Right, like understanding not just the language, but also the unspoken rules, the values, the humor, all of that.
So what's the solution? I mean, how can companies avoid becoming the next Pepsi or KFC translation fail meme?
Well, it's not rocket science, but it does require a conscious effort. It's about investing in expert translators who understand the nuances of both languages and cultures.
Yeah, like not just someone who can plug words into Google Translate, right?
Exactly. You need someone who can capture the essence of your message and adapt it appropriately. It's also about testing. Testing. Get feedback from people in the target market. Make sure your message is coming across the way you intended.
That makes so much sense. It's about treating translation as an art, not just a mechanical process.
Absolutely. And finally, let's look at a case that proves even big global brands aren't immune to these kinds of blunders. We're talking about HSBC, the multinational banking giant.
Big money, big resources, you'd think they'd have this figured out.
Right. But even they had a major slip-up. Their Assume Nothing campaign was supposed to be all about challenging assumptions and promoting a more open-minded approach to banking.
Seems like a pretty straightforward message.
You'd think so. But guess what happened when they translated it for certain markets? It became do nothing.
Wait, really? So instead of encouraging people to question assumptions, they were essentially telling them to just sit back and do nothing.
You got it. Not exactly the most inspiring message for a bank, right?
Talk about a mixed message. It really makes you wonder, how does this even happen?
I think it just highlights the fact that even seemingly simple phrases can have vastly different meanings across cultures. There are so many layers to communication, And it's so easy to miss something crucial if you're not paying close attention.
So the takeaway here is clear. Cultural sensitivity, expert translation, thorough checks and balances, it all matters.
Absolutely. And for all of you listening out there, think about your own experiences.
Yeah, have you ever had a communication breakdown because of cultural differences? How did you navigate it? What did you learn from it?
These kinds of experiences, even the awkward ones, can be incredibly valuable. They make us more aware of our own cultural biases and help us develop more empathy for others.
Absolutely. And if you're looking for more guidance on how to navigate these tricky waters of cross-cultural communication, make sure to check out Salvador Ordorica's YouTube channel. He's a wealth of knowledge, and he shares some really practical tips that can help you avoid these kinds of translation disasters.
He's definitely worth a follow.
So there you have it, a deep dive into the hilarious and sometimes horrifying world of translation fails. And remember, next time you encounter a cultural difference, embrace it as an opportunity to learn and grow.
And who knows, you might even have a funny story to tell afterward. Just maybe not as funny as Pepsi brings your ancestors back from the grave.
Or eat your fingers off.
Definitely not.
Thanks for joining us.